All right, let's just jump right in. We all do this, right? We have this picture of our future and we think we know exactly how we're going to feel when something happens. But what if that emotional crystal ball of ours is, well, totally broken? That's what we're digging into today. Why we are so wrong about our own future happiness. I mean, we've all had this thought, haven't we? We hang all our hopes for this big, lasting happiness on one single thing. You know, that promotion, finally graduating, the big win. We tell ourselves, once I get that, everything's going to be perfect, forever.
But what really happens? So you get the promotion, and yeah, there's this huge rush of joy. It feels absolutely amazing for a little while. But give it a few weeks, maybe a couple of months, and that super intense feeling, it just fades. You get used to it, new problems pop up, and pretty soon your happiness level is right back where it started.
Okay, so let's flip this around and look at the opposite, that fear of failure. We picture something going wrong, a big project just completely falling apart, and we predict total, absolute devastation. We think that disappointment is going to be this crushing weight that lasts forever.
And yet, when it actually happens, when the project does fail, something pretty remarkable happens. We bounce back. And we do it surprisingly fast. Yeah, it stings at first, for sure, but then our brains just kind of get to work. We figure out ways to cope, and you know what? A couple of weeks later, we're basically okay. We are so much more resilient than we ever give ourselves credit for.
So what this all really points to is this huge mismatch, right? It doesn't matter if it's a massive success or a total disaster we're dreading. Our predictions about how we'll feel later are just consistently off. We get the direction right, like good things feel good, bad things feel bad, duh. But we get the intensity and the duration completely wrong. And this isn't just some random quirk we all have. Nope, it's a real, well-documented cognitive bias. So let's actually put a name to this thing that pretty much all of us experience. Psychologists have a name for it, of course. It's called the Affective Forecasting Error. It sounds complicated, but it's not. Affective just means related to emotions, and forecasting is just a fancy word for predicting. So it's literally an error in predicting our emotions. It's this tendency we have to think our future feelings are going to be way more intense and last way longer than they actually do. And this right here is the heart of the problem. We predict these huge, dramatic, life-changing emotional roller coasters, these massive peaks and deep valleys. But the reality? It's much more moderate. The highs aren't quite as high, the lows aren't nearly as low as we imagine, and we get back to our normal emotional baseline way faster than we think we will.
So let's look at how this actually plays out in real life, in some super common situations. Because this isn't some abstract thing that only happens in a psychology lab. This error literally shapes some of the biggest decisions we make.
All right, first up, the dream job. You know the one. You spend years working toward it, totally convinced that it's the final piece of the puzzle for your happiness. You keep telling yourself, this is it. This is going to change everything.
And then you get it, and week one is just amazing. But then, look what happens. By month 6, that shiny new feeling starts to wear off. By the end of year 1, it's just your job. The little annoyances pop up, the daily grind is real. You predicted this complete life transformation, but what you actually got was a temporary boost.
Okay, next example. Relationships. A really painful breakup can honestly feel like the world is ending. We immediately predict this future filled with nothing but sadness and loneliness.
Yeah, our prediction is usually catastrophic, something like, my life is over, I'll never get over this. But what's the reality? Well, the pain at the beginning is absolutely real, don't get me wrong. But then our psychological immune system kicks into gear. We start hanging out with friends again, we pick up a new hobby, and suddenly it's 3 months later and life is okay again. Happiness finds a way back in. We are just so much tougher than we think.
And finally, let's talk about one of the biggest traps of all, the must-have purchase. We get totally convinced that a new car, or the latest phone, or that fancy watch is going to bring us this deep, lasting joy.
And what we see, especially with material things, is that the joy fades fast, like really fast. Day 1 with the new car, pure bliss. A month later, yeah, it's still nice. But 6 months in, it's just the car that gets you to work. That lasting happiness we predicted was really just a very temporary hit of pleasure.
So the big question is, why are we so bad at this? I mean, it seems like it should be simple, right? But it has nothing to do with being smart.
It's because our brains have these little built-in blind spots that trip us up every single time.
It really comes down to three main things. First, we get tunnel vision. When we're thinking about that promotion, we're only thinking about the promotion. We totally forget that the rest of life, traffic jams, paying bills, boring chores, is still going to be happening. Second, we just completely underestimate our brain's amazing ability to adapt and get used to things. And third, it's like we have amnesia. We forget all the other times we got it wrong. We just keep telling ourselves, no, this time will be different.
And look, this isn't just some harmless little mental quirk. It has real consequences. This error drives us to make bad life decisions, right? We end up chasing things that won't actually make us happy, and we're terrified of things that we could totally recover from. It creates this endless cycle of dissatisfaction, where we're always looking for the next big thing instead of finding joy in what we have right now.
So that's the problem. But here's the good news. We can get better at this. We're probably never going to eliminate the error completely, but we can for sure weaken its hold on us just by being a little more mindful. So let's look at a practical toolkit for how to do that.
Okay, here are 3 simple things you can do. First, become a student of your own past predictions. Seriously, look back. Were you right before? How often? Second, just go in expecting your feelings to fade. Remind yourself, I'm going to adapt to this. It works for good things and bad things. And third, try to shift your focus. Instead of obsessing over the outcome, find joy in the process, in the journey itself.
So really, it all comes down to making this conscious shift in your head. Instead of just automatically going with that old dramatic forecast of extreme highs, extreme lows, we can actually train ourselves to make a new one, a more realistic one, with way less intensity and a much shorter shelf life.
And getting a handle on this error doesn't just make us better fortune tellers of our own feelings. When you really let this sink in, it can totally change how you approach building a happy life.
If there's one single thing to remember from all of this, let it be this. That incredible success you're chasing, it's not going to save you. It's not the permanent fix you think it is. And that devastating failure you're so scared of, it's not going to destroy you. Our emotional lives are just way more stable than our crazy imaginations lead us to believe.
So, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Think about the goals you're chasing right now. Are they built on the shaky promise of some fleeting emotional high, or are they grounded in something more solid? Something like the process, your own growth, or a real, sustainable sense of satisfaction? Because the answer to that, well, it might just change everything.